My first rhyme came to me, you know what I'm saying? And referring to incidents occurring in past times when the beats of my profession, I had no rhymes with the daytime change.
After DMX would release his best-selling album of all time, and then there was X, which featured this hit single, Party Up in Here. After DMX would go on to star in hit films like Belly, Romeo Must Die, Exit Wounds, and Cradle to the Grave.
Your pops has been running around like Donald Trump, grabbing up every piece of waterfront he can get his hands on.
After DMX would be hospitalized and placed on life support in March of 2021 after suffering a heart attack triggered by a drug overdose.
He is in grave condition. Whatever the meaning there is, that's exactly what I'm being told.
Following the deaths of hip-hop icons like Tupac and Biggie, rapper DMX took over as the undisputed king of hardcore rap. X, whose real name is Earl Simmons, was that rare breed of superstar whose credibility on the streets would turn him into a commercial powerhouse, and while his ascent to the top of the rap game was almost a decade in the making, his journey transformed himself into one of rap's most iconic personalities.
No, I'm angry all the time. Like, it was a good time. You know, we had a lot of fun down there in Miami, third album. What? You know, when I get in that studio, it's a whole other situation.
It can be easy to forget how successful X was. I mean, to this day, he's the only rapper to ever have his first 5 studio albums debut at #1 on the Billboard 200. He's also the only living rapper to have 2 albums go platinum in the same year. These things sometimes slip by the wayside because X has also made headlines for reasons outside of his career. For example, he's been in jail around 30 times throughout the course of his life, with charges varying from drug possession to robbery to probation violation, and a whole lot in between. He's also struggled with an addiction to crack cocaine since he was 14 years old, and this addiction to narcotics would result in the latest turn of events in his life, being admitted to the hospital in April of 2021 after suffering a heart attack due to an overdose. So, as DMX fights for his life, and as some of his closest friends in the industry sent out their warmest wishes for him to get better, we thought we'd do the same here by refreshing everyone as to why DMX is considered one of the greatest artists of all time. Hey, what's poppin', guys? It's your boy Marlon Palmer back at it again with a brand new video. This one taking a look at the history and recent events in the life of DMX. I've been listening to X since I was 12 years old, so believe me when I say that I'm really hoping that X can pull through, and I truly believe that if anyone can, it's him. In the meantime, I wanted to celebrate the man's accomplishments, and I encourage all of you to please do the same in the comments down below. And let's get into the story. DMX was born Earl Simmons in Mount Vernon, New York on December 18, 1970. As a young kid, he and his family moved to the city of Yonkers, and there, Earl was raised in a troublesome and abusive environment. In particular, his mother would often beat him badly, sometimes knocking the teeth out of his mouth. He told GQ, "I found out I just knew things that she didn't know when I was only 6 years old, and I saw something in her notebook that was open on the kitchen table and it was wrong, so I erased it. I thought I was helping. I don't know what she thought, but she beat 2 teeth out of my mouth with a broom." Throughout the course of his childhood, X would spend a great deal of his time living in group homes, and eventually he would learn how to survive on the streets on his very own through robbery, which, as you might expect, led to several run-ins with the law. When X was only 10, he was arrested for the first time and charged with arson. Later that year, he'd be arrested again. As X grew older, things didn't get any easier. In recent interviews, he'd admitted that at the age of 14, he was tricked into smoking crack for the first time in his life when he was given a blunt laced with the drug.
Why would you do that to a child?
Right.
And you're like 30, you know what I'm saying?
To make matters even worse, the man who tricked X was someone he looked up to as a mentor figure in his life. This would kickstart a battle between X and dependency issues, one that would be further complicated when it began to affect his mental health as well. In the BET documentary The Rough Rider Chronicles, X admits that beyond his issues with drugs, he's also battled with multiple personality disorder.
Few people in me that get me through life.
What would you want anyone to know about those people that helped?
I wouldn't want anyone to know anything about those people.
With his upbringing as difficult as it was, X would find his saving grace in the world of hip-hop, starting out as a DJ and human beatbox before moving into the rap game to increase his spotlight. He took the name DMX from the digital drum machine that he'd used to create beats and began turning his new persona into a hip-hop legend on the freestyle battle scene. It didn't take long to earn himself a write-up in the Source magazine's unsigned hype column, and by 1992, X was signed to Columbia's subsidiary, Rough House, dropping his very first single, Born Loser, soon after. Unfortunately, a surplus of talent on the record label's roster would leave DMX tragically underpromoted. So the label eventually agreed to release him from his contract. In 1994, he dropped his next single, Make a Move, and then in a tragic bit of irony after doing just that, he found himself convicted of drug possession that very same year. After getting out of prison, DMX began to rebuild his career by appearing in one of DJ Clue's underground mixtapes. That would lead to his earning a second major label contract with Def Jam and appearing on features with the likes of LL Cool J. By early 1998, X was ready to release his Def Jam debut single, Get At Me Dog, which became a gold-selling smash hit for him and paved the way for his full-length debut studio album, It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, which dropped at #1 on the Billboard charts. The album would sell over 4 million copies and create a career not just for X, but for its producer as well in Swiss Beats. With his musical career on track to succeed, X turned his eye towards the silver screen when he made his feature film debut by co-starring in the ambitious film Belly. Legendary movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. Seriously. I'm not just saying that because I'm Jamaican, but I kinda am.
But yo, your man, trying to get wine on for real.
While that film has enjoyed a cult following in the years since its release back then, it was considered something of a failure. By the end of '98, X would not only buy himself out of his contract with Def Jam, but he dropped his second album as well, the controversial Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. An album that caused an uproar upon its release due to the graphic imagery on its front cover of X absolutely drenched in blood. But you know what they say, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and that album would eventually go triple platinum. Then in '99, DMX hit the road with Jay-Z in the blockbuster Hard Knock Life tour, which also featured Method Man and Redman. Also, a documentary that if you have not seen the Hard Knock Life tour documentary, don't call yourself a hip-hop fan.
I thank you for the love that they give to me.
Unfortunately, some serious charges would be brought forward later that summer when X's uncle and acting manager was accidentally shot in his foot in a New Jersey hotel. After the incident, police would raid DMX's home and filed animal cruelty, weapons, and drug possession charges against him. DMX eventually plea bargained down to fines, probation, and community service by the end of '99. He was releasing his third album, and then there was X. Not only was this his third straight album to go #1, it also produced his biggest hit since Get At Me Dog with the classic Party Up in Here. A single that helped make his album his best-selling one yet, with over 5 million copies sold. And that song could turn a church up, seriously. Around this time, DMX returned to the silver screen in a big way with Jet Li action film Romeo Must Die, but soon after he became entangled with weapons and drug charges in New York State that eventually saw him plead guilty and spend 15 days in jail. Only weeks after getting out, his new film with Steven Seagal, Exit Wounds, would open at #1 in the box office and featured his hit single No Sunshine. Due to the immense success of both these properties, Warner Brothers signed X to a multi-picture deal, and in the fall of 2001, he dropped his fourth album, The Great Depression. Over the next few years, DMX would be busier than ever recording albums like Grand Champ and A Year of the Dog Again, as well as appearing in the Jet Li film Cradle to the Grave. But before long, more legal issues would crop up, including having to serve 90 days in jail after pleading guilty to charges of animal cruelty, drug possession, and theft in late 2008.
Because if I hadn't met the devil here, I wouldn't realize I was strong enough to overcome the obstacles that the devil would place in my path. And it's by overcoming these obstacles that I realized that this is God's country.
In 2010, a 90-day sentence for reckless driving would turn into a full year after alcohol consumption triggered a parole violation. He'd returned to music in 2012 with Undisputed, but by now, his albums weren't selling like they used to. After 2015's Redemption of the Beast was released by his label without his blessing, X would find himself once again behind bars for 2 months after he failed to pay child support. From that point on, DMX's musical production became sporadic to say the least. In 2016, he released a track titled Blood Red, and the following year, he dropped the single Bane Is Back. 2017 began one of the most difficult periods in X's life after he was sentenced to 1 year in prison for tax fraud. He turned himself in and eventually posted $500,000 in bail to be placed under house arrest. But after delivering a dirty drug test, he was taken off house arrest and placed in prison.
Well, I mean, it allowed me to not be scared of the situation and face it head on. You know what I'm saying? My life is in God's hands.
Despite having spent a considerable amount of time behind bars by this point in his life, X says that this latest stint was by far the most difficult. He told GQ why. Because I knew that at any given time I could be smoking a cigarette and enjoying a glass of Hennessy, eating what I want. There's so much more to life. Before I really had a life, jail was a playground. I'd be like, I'm going to jail and have fun. You know what I'm saying? People were sneaking in weed. I was sneaking into different cell blocks and battling rappers and shit. Jail used to be fun. After spending the last 90 days of his sentence in solitary confinement, X got out in January of 2019, and by the end of that year, he was checking himself into rehab. Then in April of 2020, X popped back up, this time on Instagram, where he began delivering Bible study sessions.
Say this is new to me. This is not what I do. Come on, I ain't, you know, with showing everybody what I'm doing every minute. That's just not me. That's not how I get down, you know what I'm saying?
What leapt out most about these sermons is how good X looked. He'd put some weight on, his eyes looked clear, and he was even smiling. It finally looked like DMX was clean and healthy for quite possibly the first time in his life. He even showed up in an episode of Verzuz where he battled Snoop Dogg, much to the delight of damn near everyone on the planet. What a battle. What a battle.
It's better if we just accept it.
Say, man, it's another angel up top.
It's gonna be. It's gonna be.
Of course, outward appearances can oftentimes be deceiving, and that would prove to be true in this case as well. According to recent reports, DMX has suffered a heart attack in his home as a result of a drug overdose. Upon arriving at the scene, paramedics attempted to resuscitate the star for 30 minutes, but his prolonged oxygen deprivation severely impacted his brain, and DMX is currently on life support. While things are decidedly not looking good at all right now, his children released a statement reminding us of just how much of a fighter their father is. Earl has been a warrior his entire life. This situation represents yet another road he must cross. As for where the rest of this story will go from here, well, stay tuned to this channel for more updates because as soon as we have them, we'll be passing them along. Personally, I'm praying that X battles back from this, obviously for his kids and family, but also for that album that he was teasing for past couple of years. It's set to feature like Pop Smoke, Alicia Keys, Bono, Snoop Dogg, and a whole bunch more. Be sure to let us know what you think about his story in the comments down below and leave us some of your favorite memories of this talented rapper as well. Get well soon, X. We're all rooting for you here. I'll catch you guys in our next video.